It's very nice to be back. So my story begins right here in this hall about 4 or 5 years ago on AS results day. My dad had driven me in, I left him in the car, and I took myself off to a corner to open the white envelope. I broke the seal, put this down, and now up until this point I had been an A grade-ish student, and this came as quite a shock. I promptly ate a whole packet of sour cream and onion Pringles and sat down to reassess what I wanted to do with my life. Now, during my time in sixth form, I wanted to be a lawyer, a writer, a teacher, an MP, a secretary, a director, a midwife, amongst a multitude of other things. I was swapping degrees every week until I settled on a degree in theatre and English. However, that degree, that mark even, in English literature, really knocked my confidence. And so I started to look around for courses that had lower grade requirements. That was when I came across a degree at the University of Leeds in theatre and performance that asked for a slightly more manageable this. Now, I was initially drawn to the course because of the grades, but when I started to read more about the course, the school and the university, I realised that that was what I really wanted to do. That was what I was passionate about. That D in English literature was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. It encouraged me to work hard and really focus on my exam technique that was part of the problem, and it made me realise what I was really passionate about. Although I did really like English, I still love reading. The main reason I tacked onto that degree in theatre was because I thought it made it sound more academic and therefore more respectable. So in 2011, I left Chippy with this and I headed up north to the University of Leeds. Now in this talk, I'm going to take you through the first steps that I have taken up the ladder, and I'm afraid I haven't got a real ladder with me, towards becoming a theatre producer. I'm then going to ask, what is theatre producing? Because nobody really knows and it is very vague. And I'm finally going to ask, what is it that lights my fire? What kind of producer do I want to be, and why do I love it? So, is it that one? So, my first step onto the ladder happened in my very first year at university. I loved Leeds. The course expanded my knowledge of theatre, and I made some fantastic friends, some of whom you can see here. Now, these friends decided that they wanted to put on a feminist burlesque show. I wanted to be involved, but I did not want to take my clothes off on stage, so I said, without knowing what the hell it meant, that I would be the producer. Now, with the Femme Stupids, later named the Vacant Ladies Club, thank you, I produced 3 burlesque shows. They got very strong audiences, good reviews, and we even made a small profit. It was during this time that I learned the basics of what producing is, and I really fell in love with it. Now that I had identified this interest, I started to produce shows, thank you, with the Theatre Society at Leeds. The first, you can see here, was called Someone Else's Shoes and was pretty much an unmitigated disaster. The cast were unhappy, the audience were unhappy. Some of the audience, international students, did think it was an actual shoe sale. It was not good. The second, called Wojciech, was an intriguing but miserable piece of German theatre. And the main thing I learnt from this production is always hire comfortable chairs, as sadly the audience's main memory was the hard-backed wooden chairs that they had to sit on for 2 hours. The third piece, which is called The Object Show, very eccentric, quite bizarre, was okay. But this was a very important show for me because it introduced me to a fantastic emerging theatre company called Manic Chord Theatre. They had grown out of my course 2 years previously, and they asked me to join them as their assistant producer. I then became their co-producer and tour coordinator. With them, I produced 2 shows. The first was called After What Comes Before and told the story of 3 scientists who are trapped in a laboratory. They create a machine powered by a lemon that can read minds. It was very funny, very energetic, very physical. It went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and then on a short tour. The second show was called Don't Let Go. Thank and was inspired by the 1956 French film Le Ballon Rouge. It was a beautiful, charming show about a man called Leonard, who is the very depiction of ordinary until he meets and befriends a red balloon. It too went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and is going on tour in March, so do keep an eye out, go along. By this point, I had identified that this was what I wanted to follow as a career path. So, I knew I needed more experience, so I went to a fantastic company called L'Enfant Terrible, and I asked if I could do a very short internship with them. I worked with them on their children's show called Captain Flynn and the Pirate Dinosaurs. Now, I will freely admit that producing is a very, very vague role, and I spent most of my time on this internship carrying large and bizarre things around Bristol. Now, if any of you ever do work in theatre, you will quickly find that a surprising amount of your time is taken up by carrying large, heavy, slightly odd things around cities. My personal favourite is, and always will be, Diana, the horse's head. She's always a hit at parties, people of Leeds love her, she's great. And then I graduated, which came, there we go, that is me on graduation. As you can see, I had a fantastic day. You might think of seeing double, that was because, frankly, I was seeing double for the whole of that day. I woke up the next morning, however, and I thought, I've got to get a job, which came as quite a shock. So I went for several jobs and BBC fellowships. I was either rejected at the first hurdle or I would get to the final hurdle and be told, you don't have enough experience. This is just catch-22 the whole time, because if you don't have the experience and nobody is willing to offer it to you, where do you go to get it? Rather controversially, at the minute in the theatre industry, you go to unpaid internships to get this experience, which is the path I'm taking at the minute. I'm currently interning at Theatre 503 in London, which is a fringe theatre that specialises in new writing, doesn't matter, and I'm there as their resident assistant producer. I'm also interning at a production company called Fuel, and they are a fantastic company. They have a portfolio of artists, and then they tailor their producing to each artist. So this is the point on the ladder where I am at currently. This seems like a very good point to ask. What actually is producing? It is a very wide role, it's hard to define, and it encompasses a range of skills. Consequently, to a certain extent, you can be the kind of producer you want to be and tailor your own skill sets to whatever project or artist you are working with. At the moment, I see producing as being a mixture of a project coordinator, a creative partner, and an initiator. In one day, a little visual aid, you could come up with an idea for a show, you could organise and attend a rehearsal, you could apply for arts funding or sponsorship, you could write a contract, you could run an audition, you could create a marketing campaign, you could write a budget, you could pitch a show to a venue, or if you work in a venue, you could program a show, you could help write a script, you could write a business plan, you could put a production team together, you could program a show, you could do a multitude of various things. The reason I love producing is you are the one who makes things happen. I love theatre, so I love making the kind of theatre that I would like to see, that fulfills a strong purpose and reaches an audience. Now, I've just got a very quick quote here from Fuel, because I think they describe what producing is in the perfect way. They write that they respond to ideas, to artists and to projects, making them happen as best they possibly can, providing whatever is needed for that to happen. From fundraising to moral support, tour booking to being a sounding board for ideas, dramaturgy to photocopying, Fuel is not a service provider, but an initiator, a driving force, a producer in the original sense of the word. But what is it about producing that specifically lights my fire? What kind of producer do I want to be when I reach the top or the middle of the ladder? The bit I love about producing the most is making things happen, is identifying a problem or a gap in the creative market and then finding a way to fill it. This means you have to have very strong organisational and managerial skills. Now, there is a problem in the theatre industry that needs challenging, and I want to challenge it. This problem, and it's a bit of a running theme today, is gender inequality. Now, the theatre industry is quite shockingly behind the times in regards to this issue, both on and off the stage. Behind me, thank you, you will see a table. It lists the top 10 subsidised theatres in the country, the amount of plays they programmed in 2011-2012, and the percentage of those plays that were written by male or female playwrights. As you can see, 35% of these plays were written by women. And this is not just a problem in 2011-2012, this is not just a problem with these 10 theatres, this is across the entire theatre industry. There was a very interesting experiment done in America where a theatre company sent out 2 identical scripts. One had a man's name on the front and one had a woman's name on the front. And the male script was programmed much more frequently than the script written by a woman. This problem can also be seen on the stage. So again, we've got the top 10 subsidised theatres, and 38% of people seen on these stages are women. This data is only heightened when you look at any drama school or most art courses in the country, where you will see that the majority of people studying it are women. Furthermore, most of theatre goers are women. But what can be done about it? Now, Elizabeth Pentibus, who is director of Elizabeth Freestone, who's director of Pentibus Theatre, in fact, she suggests that a core part of the problem is Shakespeare. He is our most performed playwright in the UK, and most of his characters are male. Consequently, there's been a bit of a backlash recently with cross-dress Shakespeare, so women playing the male parts that never get a chance to play and really going for it in the classical world. This image is from a fantastic company called The Smooth-Faced Gentleman. I recommend you go and see any of their work. And this is an image from their all-female Titus Andronicus. We've also got Maxine Peake's Hamlet, which is currently at the Royal Exchange, and she's getting rave reviews. And then Philidia Loy's Julius Caesar at the Donmar Warehouse, and she is also doing a version of Julius Caesar, again set in a women's prison. They are fantastic productions, they are reinventing Shakespeare. It is wonderful. However, I want to tackle this problem through new work. I'm not particularly interested in reinventing theatre. I'm interested in reinventing theatre, in fact. I'm not interested in just churning out the same old thing again and again and again. I want to create new work that is written by women, that stars women, and that represents women on stage. This would be another step up the ladder towards achieving gender equality in the theatre industry. Of course, this was only my way of climbing the ladder up towards my aim of becoming a theatre producer. And there are a multitude of different ways of doing it, and there are a multitude of different ways, different roles within the theatre industry that suit so many different skill sets. You could go to drama school, you could do any of the drama practice courses that are drama schools. There's an amazing one at Central School of Speech and Drama, if that is what you're interested in. You don't have to go to university. It is not necessarily the most effective way of doing it. You could be a production assistant, you could work in administration or box office and then work your way up or across. You could be a runner on a film set. There are so many different ways to get into what is a fantastic industry to work within. So that is the point up the ladder that I am currently at towards becoming a theatre producer, and thank you very much for your time today.